Whispers from the well, they said. The old well in the center of the village could speak. Most thought it was a myth, a story parents told their children to keep them from leaning too far over the edge. But when Noor first heard it, the whisper wasn't a warning. It was a plea. It was late evening, and Noor was walking home from the schoolhouse where she taught. The air carried that dusty warmth only summer in her small village could hold. She had taken the shortcut through the old square, a place that had fallen into neglect. The shops were shuttered, weeds pushing through cracks in the stones. The well stood at the center, its stones worn smooth from decades of hands leaning on them. Noor had never paid much attention to it until that night. She paused when she thought she heard a voice. Faint, almost swallowed by the crickets. She leaned in closer, expecting it to be the wind brushing past the stone lip. But the sound shaped itself into words. Don't forget us. Noor straightened so quickly she almost tripped. There was no one around. Just her, the night air, and the well. She laughed it off at first. Stress, she told herself. A trick of the mind. But the next evening, passing by again, she heard it once more. It's running dry. This time her stomach nodded. Noor's grandmother had told her stories about this well when she was little. How it had once been the heart of the village. Neighbors would meet there each morning to draw water, swap news, and check in on one another. Arguments had been mended there. Love had been confessed there. It wasn't just a source of water, it was a source of connection. But now the village had plumbing, and the well had been left to crumble, both physically and in memory. Over the next few days, Noor found herself drawn to it. She began lowering the old bucket just to hear the soft splash of water below. It was still there, but far down, so far it almost seemed unreachable. She thought about her students, their families, the way everyone now rushed home after work, locked behind gates and screens. The village felt quieter these days, not in peace, but in isolation. Maybe the well wasn't only talking about water. One evening, Noor decided to speak back. Standing with her palms resting on the stone rim, she whispered, "What do you want me to do?" The answer came like a breath rising from the deep. Bring them here. Noor didn't know where to begin, but she started small. She cleaned the moss off the stones, pulled weeds from the square, and scrubbed the bucket until it shone. The next morning, she carried fresh flowers in a jar and placed them at the edge. People stared as they passed, curious but too hurried to stop. Then she sent invitations. Handwritten notes to her students' parents, to the shopkeepers, to the elderly who rarely left their homes anymore. Saturday, just after sunset, meet at the well. No reason given. She didn't know exactly what she would say, only that she needed them to come. When Saturday came, the square filled slowly, hesitantly. Some brought children, others brought food. Noor stood beside the well, heart pounding. She told them about the whispers, not expecting them to believe, but hoping they'd understand the metaphor. She spoke of how this place had once been their gathering point. The way the well had carried not just water, but stories, friendships, care. It's running dry, she said, because we stopped coming to it. And maybe in a way we've been running dry too. Silence fell over the crowd. An old man who had once been the village carpenter stepped forward. Without a word, he began lowering the bucket, pulling it back up heavy with water. He poured it into a waiting jug and handed it to a woman nearby. She smiled, passed it on, and just like that, conversations began. Children leaned over to peer inside. Someone started playing a flute. Laughter rose into the night air. In the weeks that followed, the well became alive again. People came not because they needed water, but because they needed each other. Someone painted the surrounding walls. Teenagers began bringing lanterns at night, telling ghost stories. Elders shared recipes and memories. The square smelled of bread, tea, and blooming flowers. Noor never heard the whispers again. Not because the well had gone silent, but because its message had been fulfilled. The water was still deep, but now it was more than water. It was a living bond between people who had almost forgotten they belonged to one another. Months later, a child asked Noor if the well really could speak. Noor smiled, resting her hand on the stone rim. "Yes," she said, "but you have to listen very closely. It doesn't talk to your ears, it talks to your heart." And as the child leaned in, giggling at the imagined sound, Noor felt something stir deep inside the stones. Not a whisper this time, but the steady hum of a well, that would never run dry again.